Servus Männer, it's Red Bull Germany again. Today I want to bring you a fascinating and also very funny story, I think, from the iconic, or should I say infamous district of Kreuzberg, or let's say Friedrichshain, Kreuzberg, from our capital, or should I say our capital slum, Berlin. Not only since yesterday, this district, and I reported a couple of times about it, is a hotspot for crime and the sale of illegal substances. And because it is a very diverse and very colorful place, it is not the most clean place in Berlin, as these pictures that you are currently seeing will probably let you know. Responsible politicians were always downplaying this, and they were romanticizing it also. They said, oh, Berlin is poor but sexy. And now we can probably say Berlin is broke and dirty. And the problem is really getting out of hand. In 2016, the district paid less than €500,000 per year for cleaning public spaces and squares and such. And this year it is estimated to be around €1 million already. And now the stunningly beautiful and charming Green Party district mayor Monika Herrmann, whose personal pronouns are she and her, that must be, she and her, is ringing the alarm bells. This state of neglect and dilapidation can no longer be tolerated, according to her. In today's video, I want to describe the problems of this district, and I also want to try and answer the question why they have these problems, and I want to highlight these recent upcoming stories about this brave, stunning Green Party district mayor and her struggle against garbage. But before we get into that, I want to thank my supporters and my subscribers. Please like, share and subscribe if you like this material, and if you want to support me, you can do so via PayPal directly or support me via Patreon or Subscribestar. Alright, so this problem, as I said, is not new, and when they say garbage or refuse, you have to know that among these piles of garbage are, of course, not only broken bottles and fast food containers or wrappings or something like that, but also paraphernalia for the injection of opiates, of course. You also have more bulky things like old broken washing machines and cabinets. And even the colorful crowd of the people who live there don't want to tolerate this state of affairs any longer. And let's just say these people are normally not so shocked by, untidy or unclean streets like some Swabians would be, for example. But for all these years, the district mayor Monika Herrmann had a perfect explanation why her district was so dirty. She said it was tourists. Yes, Berlin, of course, attracts a lot of tourists. A lot of people come there to party or to go to museums or something like that. But not just any tourists. No, she was very, very specific. It was European tourists. So white people, of course, not the colorful ones. European tourists were coming from Spain, let's say, with a broken washing machine in their backpack, only to come to Kreuzberg and dump it there in a public park, obviously. But the events of 2020 now give us the opportunity to test this bold hypothesis of the bright young district mayor. See, this year, because of some travel restrictions, there weren't any tourists in Berlin. Only maybe German tourists, but not other European tourists, because there were travel restrictions, of course. And what did I just say in the beginning? The estimates are that the cost for cleaning would double this year compared to 2016. So obviously it can't have been European party tourists. And even the Jeanne d'Arc of the fight for order and cleanliness, Monika Herrmann, had to admit that now this year. He had to finally admit that these problems might have been homemade after all. What? Homemade? Really? I would never have thought of this. How could that be? I mean, you cannot just say that. You have to have some kind of an explanation why just there it should be that severe. Now, let's look at the state of affairs. Let's look at the policies in that district and the entire mentality that these people there, that means her as the district mayor, but also a lot of other people have there. And of course, I mean, she is elected. That means most of the people, a majority of the people in that district must support that, what has been carried out for all these years. Let's have a look at it. Of course, there we have the infamous Görlitzer Park. And here you can see on the pictures, it's basically a lawn with some footpaths. But what is so special about this park? Well, easy. That is where a lot of illegal substances are being sold by, well, let's just say they're not European tourists, okay? And what has the district done about it? Oh, sure, they have sprayed these pink sectors, these pink zones on these paths, on these roads. And what does that mean? This means that this is where the, let's just call them dealers for simplicity. Normally I would say that they are irregular pharmaceutical sales representatives, but for the sake of brevity, let's just call them dealers. They have to stay within these pink zones when they want to conduct their business. Yes, I'm not kidding you. So the police has been told to stand down, to not do anything about that, as long as they're just selling weaker substances and not the hard stuff, But bear in mind, all these things are illegal in Germany. This is not California, this is not Amsterdam, this is illegal in Germany. Yeah? We have laws against that, and a district attorney basically said now that, oh no, our police doesn't enforce these rules anymore for certain people. Of course, if I would stand at this corner offering this peculiar kind of merchandise, I would be in jail within 20 minutes probably. But if you belong to the correct group with the correct level of melanation, that is not a problem in Berlin, it seems. And laws? Who cares about laws? So these people there, they just elected themselves a Green Party mayor in order to go around the German laws. They just don't enforce them anymore. Ha ha ha. That sounds very reminiscent of what we see in a lot of blue states in the United States, where the Democrats rule. In a lot of blue cities, there are laws that are just not enforced anymore for certain groups, and the same thing is done by the Green Party here. But wait, it didn't stop there. No, not only were they allowing these dealers to conduct their business there, and even created these pink safe zones where they can, do that and the police doesn't bother them. No, it didn't just stop there. They even put up a monument, yes, a statue that is glorifying one of those southern dealers, yeah. They said that these dealers are working bravely despite of all these obstacles and all this oppression in the public sphere to the benefit of all. This statue, as well as an exhibition that glorified these illegal, destructive, harmful practices, had the full backing of the district mayor, Monika Herrmann, of course. She defended that publicly on various occasions. Of course, I don't think I have to say that, but I do it anyway because some people might not be familiar with Germany. So for foreigners who don't know a lot about Germany, the Green Party, of course, has the same attitude towards law and order and our law enforcement as BLM at the moment in the United States, for example. What these radical Marxists in the United States are still dreaming about has already been a reality in Berlin since May 2020. The burden of proof in discrimination cases from the side of public officers has been reversed. If anybody thinks they were discriminated against, and of course not anybody, we all know that this only goes for specific protected groups. If they think they have been discriminated against by law enforcement, for example, the burden of proof falls now on the officer to prove that he is innocent, that he has not been discriminating against someone, for example, searched someone while they were black. Yeah. So that means just that the police in Berlin will, of course, no longer search these people. They will avoid it because they just might get charged with discrimination, and then they have to prove the impossible, that they didn't discriminate against them. That is impossible to prove. So the city of Berlin just declared certain groups, and you know who I mean, of course, immune from police attention. Very clever, right? And oh, the irony, now that the costs for cleaning these public squares and that people who live there are already complaining about these injectors that are lying around everywhere, now she is calling for more cops to go on patrol in her district. Isn't that funny? But you know, what is also funny is that the costs for all these measures that she introduces now, that she suggests, the costs should of course not be covered by the district. No, somebody else has to pay for that. Is it then the state of Berlin or maybe the Bavarian taxpayer? I don't know, but somebody else should pay for it. So as you can see again, no apology, no introspection. Sure, she admits that she has been wrong for all these years, but she doesn't really apologize, and they have the next scapegoat now, of course. To be fair, it wasn't her, it was one of the Green Party goons from the comments section under the article, probably, where I read that. But this narrative is widely spread, and I don't think you need a source for that, really. Is really a narrative that is very widespread among these leftist people who live there. They say that the middle class people from cleaner, more well-off, or should I say gentrified parts of Berlin, that they go there in order to create all this garbage. So it is not the Spanish party tourist who has a broken laundry machine in his backpack when he comes to Berlin. No, it is someone from another district from Berlin who has the broken laundry machine in his or her backpack in order to dump it in her beautiful Kreuzberg district. Sure. To be fair, it is of course a lot of these princes and princesses from more well-off parts of Berlin, from wealthier families who come there in order to procure these substances, but I really doubt that they create all this trash and garbage there. There's always someone else who is to blame, and it's never them, and they don't have to pay for it, other people have to pay for it. Well, this is so typical, this is such a leftist cliche, it's almost like a caricature of the left, what you see there. Okay, to sum up, what did we learn here? I think Kreuzberg is something like a petri dish, something like a lab experiment, a little biotope where you can learn a lot about things that also happen at a larger scale. Leftist people come together and they elect politicians who will then execute their will, and that is to create a little bubble, a little district, or it could be a city, it could be a state, it could be a whole country, where certain laws are no longer respected, where certain rules of civilized society are no longer respected, and that creates a lot of problems and it attracts a lot of problems, and then these problems get bigger and bigger and they blame others, and of course they can't ultimately run away from reality. These things are physical reality, this is objective reality. You can't hide from that. You can't discuss it away with flowery language and mental gymnastics. And this is true for economic realities, like when the government blows up the welfare state and goes into debt massively, which happens in some southern European states. And it also has something to do with this colorful, brave, stunning lifestyle that creates a lot of garbage and a lot of sick and addicted people. Because I think the fact that even the state, the district, this is a part of the German state. It's the community level, but still, the German state officially says, we will no longer enforce that, it's okay, you go ahead and buy that stuff. That is creating the customers in the first place. All these young people, they think, well, if the mayor says it's okay, it must be okay. To a certain degree, that is true. And if society would stand together and speak out against these very harmful practices and stigmatize it, you would still see some of it, but you wouldn't see it on such a massive scale. I think this is definitely a take-home message of all these mayors and all these governors who tried to be more liberal on that kind of stuff. Because she says that, the weaker substances, and I'm not going to name them now, they are totally fine, but I draw a line here and there and there. And then they are shocked to see that all these Africans, they don't care about their subtle distinctions between this substance and that substance. They just offer it all, okay? And then when these kids are standing in front of these dealers and they're offered all that stuff, well, might as well try this, yeah? So these dealers, they don't think that way. They don't think, oh, this is okay, oh, but that's poison. So with this out-of-touch theoretical hippie mentality, this student revolt generation of 68 kind of mentality, they created a steaming pile of garbage that now the people who still live there are starting to suffer from. These are not the conservative Swabian housewife types. These are people who voted her into office in the first place because they like that stuff. But it is once again, it is a story that falls under the category of the magician's apprentice, the witcher's apprentice. I quoted that before. It's a poem from Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. It is about an apprentice of a magician who performed a magical incantation that he knew how to start, but he didn't know how to stop it anymore. Instead of learning from the wisdom of the ancestors, these crazy lunatics thought that they are so smart and all these rules of civilization and all the wisdom of our ancestors, they don't apply to them somehow because they're so cool and hip. Well, they won't get any sympathy from me, and I can just tell everybody who lives in Berlin who still has a shred of morality and common sense in his mind or in his body that they should leave that city behind and save themselves while they still can, in the same manner as people are now turning their backs on New York and California, for example. Very same thing. Alright, let me know what you think about that, and tell me if in your own country, if there is a city like that, if there is a district like that is very infamous for these kinds of things, that has a mayor, or maybe there is some province or some federal state that has a governor that is very liberal on these kinds of things, and that also created a lot of problems. Always curious to hear about these things. Take care. Servus. Kameraden.